So that's what I think of when I think of a Buddha bowl. So I've put a bunch of pomegranate arrows. About half the bowl is filled with green lentils cooked with, well, they're just cooked, and then I mixed in some tahini with them. And then I put a couple garlic clove slices to mix in, a very small, like maybe this big, red bell pepper, half of a small zucchini, and these are, I think they were called Kalettes. They're just these little, pretty cute little kale things. And I'm going to mix that up together. And James has onion instead of garlic, and pimento peppers instead of red bell peppers. But I'm sure his will be pretty good too.
Everything looks phenomenal. Wow.
Yeah, well, we lucked out, and the Salvation Army had given us some really great food this week. And so we have a lot of good things in the fridge to use up. And I've never tried these little Kalettes before, so I thought it was just regular kale when I saw the bag there. But we got these, and they're kind of...
They look like Brussels sprouts.
Yes, they do. They're really cute.
Yeah.
So we'll see how they are. It's the first time I've ever had them. I accidentally went out wearing my mask backwards today, so we'll see how I do.
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes a difference, honestly, but...
Don't want to take a chance. Anyway, you were saying the library was not densely populated today.
And nobody really seemed
people
wildly crazy or anything.
People are actually wearing their masks up.
From what I could see.
Wow, that's
but
almost
I didn't.
unprecedented.
I mean, I don't even bother to really look anymore. I just look around me.
I'd be scared to look someone in the eye to get down there. There's so much craziness. But look up to the left. Look up. Way up. Does that kind of relax you a little bit?
Yeah, it's a beautiful moon.
It's about what they'd call a quarter moon. It looks like what should be called a half moon.
Well, it seems dark out here right now, but really this isn't even very late in the evening.
Or something like that?
It's just here in Canada, like we're in southern Canada. Here in Canada, it gets dark really fast this time.
We're about 70 miles as the crow flies from the American border. That's for you Americans out there. Yeah, it's about 4:45. But how many kilometers would that be? What we'll say is 8 times 7 is, what's that, 56 or something like that? 56 divided by 5, it's about 110 miles. Or something like that. Or 110 kilometers away from the American border. Sorry about that. About 1 degree latitude. So we're about the 50th parallel, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's, it's the 40th parallel. It's the border. We're much of the border from basically Lake of the Woods all the way down to, even past Point Roberts, down to the Strait of Juan de Fuca. And when you say that, try not to put an R at the end of Fuca. People might misunderstand. Anyway, anything more you want to talk about? Shall we talk more about Michel Foucault? There's another thing where you don't want to put an R into that word. So I'll show you, just in case you weren't tuned in for the thing that we did earlier today. The Use of Pleasure. The History of Sexuality, Volume 2. Michel Foucault. And what does it say? Breathtakingly, breathtaking throughout a tour de force. I had to use that French expression. Someone from the Boston tour de force. Well, I mean, it's a turn of force. It uses force on history. It's awful. It's terrible.
I've seen that used.
Tour de force?
Yeah. On books before, and I wonder if
they even know what
the book reviewers, if they have their list of blurbs copyrighted or something, so they're like, nobody can use that except for me now.
Oh, wouldn't that be scary?
Yeah.
I bet you there's some idiot who's thinking about, you shouldn't have given them an idea. They're going to do what do they call that? Internet squatting or something like that, where they squat on a locution or something like that. Like someone said, "Hey, I squatted on the term Windows." So, well, no, that would have been too early. That's an anachronism there. But squatted on the word Tesla. So, yeah, who should have the right to that name? It should be his descendants, if he had any. Wow, Tesla. That tahini's good on the lentils. Very nice. Anyway, I was going to look at this guy's oeuvre. There's a French word. Pardon my mispronunciation for those of you who are French speakers. I was going to say French, but Pauline's 50% French there.
I don't know French.
She knows it pretty well. She's getting to the point where she can read some passages in French. You need vocabulary.
Je ne peux pas parler en français avec vous.
See?
Ever.
Yeah, but she can read it a little bit. Parley is a little bit different from lire, I should say. Oh God, that was a solecism if ever. Lire is the infinitive there. So, yeah, here's a list of this guy's works, and I think it's a fairly comprehensive list. These are books. Oh, he did 3 volumes of sexuality, history of sexuality, so maybe he gets around to actually dealing with it instead of skirting around the issue. So I got to be careful. Madness and Civilization, History of Insanity in the Age of Reason. Okay, so I don't know if he considers this the Age of Reason now. The Age of Reason presumably is the 18th century, strictly speaking. The Order of Things, an archaeology of the human sciences. So I guess that would be the social sciences or something like that. Third title, the archaeology of knowledge and the discourse on language. I love that word discourse. Of course, it means something slightly different in French generally than it means when it's adopted and adapted into the English language by a bunch of faux-cochets. And the birth of the clinic. That's not talking about a maternity ward. The birth of the clinic. You notice how all of these things have, like history or stuff like that, right? A history, well, we'll review it, right? Birth of the clinic, an archaeology of medical perception. Okay. I, Pierre Riviere, having slaughtered my mother, my sister, and my brother, a case of parricide in the 19th century. So the history or archaeology or birth isn't in the title. And I don't know if he ever gets around to genealogy, as in the genealogy of morals by Nietzsche. But that's one that the faux-gauchers really love. Why they love kind of like a title taken from a pretty serious right-winger, I don't know. Friedrich Nietzsche was a problem. Discipline and punish. The birth of prison. You see, he's stupid. The birth of the prison. And, he starts off in the Middle Ages. And then he and there it was punishment, right? It was like exemplary punishment. People getting beheaded in front of crowd, people getting tortured in front of crowds, people getting burned. And then he jumps to the prison. Jesus was in prison for a few hours. Paul was in prison several times. That's the so-called Saint Paul. Several times. We can find all sorts of examples. And not just out of the Bible. That stuff might be apocryphal or something like that. In the classical era, where they had prisons, and like people who were in prison, not like Plato. And this is before the Romans. Plato, roughly, not Plato, but Socrates. Plato wrote about it around 400 BC. he's in prison, and it was for, like it was going to be a death sentence. He was going to be tried and stuff. But, they had prisons. And in some cases, the prisons, like John the Baptist. Well, maybe that's apocryphal. Come on. Wake up and smell the coffee. And he was being held indefinitely. Now, it ends up being a death penalty being carried out on him. As the Bible says, Herod was wanting to kill him, but he was afraid to, and stuff like that. So, yeah, there were prisons well before the medieval era. And when this guy's talking about doing a history of, or the birth of prisons, do your homework, Foucault. As a great historian, or as a historian, he's a great philosopher. And as a philosopher, he's a great waste of time. Yeah. Okay, at any rate, The History of Sexuality, volumes 1, 2, and 3. I've only got the second volume here. Hopefully the first and third volumes were a little bit better than this thing. Hercule Barbin, being recently discovered memoirs, of a 19th century French hermaphrodite. It could be interesting, but I'm afraid not in Foucault's hands, because he's looking at memoirs, and this guy has no sense of history. He's just got nothing. Power knowledge, selected interviews, and other writings. Every one of these books that he put out, aside from the interviews, is like pretending to be an archaeology. Oh, that's just a trope. No, it's not really. It's like he's like it's a trope when he's talking about history then, or the birth of something. He doesn't get around to the genealogy, but that's a favorite amongst the folk gauchers. A genealogy of this, a genealogy of that, and they don't know anything about history. And you know what? The reason why is because they don't care. History's easy. All you got to do is pick up a book and start absorbing facts. But they don't like facts, the folk gauchers. To use something used by Trump, it's fake news, fake old news. Now understand, I hate Trump as much as you guys do, but I hate you as much as I hate Trump, you stupid idiots. Okay? So yeah, he's accusing you of doing fake news, and he's right. And he's doing fake news when he's dealing with all sorts of other stuff. But you guys, you're a bunch of fakers. All you sphincters. I almost used the A word there on you guys. And that's what you deserve, frankly. But there we go. At any rate, that was just a little bit more of dealing with this book. I've gone through it once. It wasn't a pleasant experience. I don't like dealing with people who are pretending as though, what is that? Oh yeah, they're arrogant, but it's a particular type of arrogant. They're pretentious. Foucault, okay? And you flunkies, would some of them be passive worker types? That would be, yeah, like the one professor that I know of. That's he's got a English PhD. Well, so head up on Foucault. He's basically
there's a lot of amiable people.
Yeah, amiable.
They're mistaken. They really think that the aggressive propagandists are like them, just empowered.
Yeah.
And they're not. They're not amiable. They're
Foucault was
aggressive.
not amiable. He was aggressive.
And the only time that they put up with amiable people is when they follow aggressive people.
When they're
when they're usable.
That's the only.
When they start to think for themselves.
Oh my heavens!
Then they get into some trouble.
Oh, big trouble.
Yeah.
So it's not just the aggressiff propagandists; it's the aggressive rulers that are that way too. They're all for the workers,
people that think for themselves.
If the workers ever start thinking for themselves, they end up in Siberia. Yeah. They end up on the White Sea. They end up in former Soviet Central Asia, in the arid and semi-arid areas around there, doing or they call them, what do they call them? Or they're doing work in labor camps. But those are death by labor camps. Okay? So death camps. So yeah, like Hitler did the death camps. He did the labor camps. So did Stalin. Newsflash. So did Stalin. So wake up and smell the coffee, or the cyanide, or the Zyklon B. The Cyclone B. But what happens is, what did Lenin had the term for these kind of poor passive types. You got a good term for them. What's the term that you use? I'm glitching on what you use.
Amiable?
For them. Amiable touch. The workers.
Some people call them stable. They're stable.
Yeah. His term was useful idiots. You don't want to be a useful idiot for some sort of aggressive propagandist
but,
or
I mean, I
dictator.
think he was talking about aggressive propagandists as being useful idiots more than amiable.
We've been talking about, I mean, you've been talking about George Bernard Shaw. I'm pretty sure, well, did Shaw make it over there? I think he did. While Lenin was still alive.
Yeah.
I'm sure he used it about him. Beatrice and Sidney and Beatrice Webb were more like amiable, I think. Shaw was out there, you know, and stuff like that. So I think he was applying to both. Now, most of the amiable people wouldn't really come to his attention. So I think you're right. Most of them.
He'd be talking about the aggressive propagandists. He didn't care about the amiable people. Amiable people, they follow. They work.
Well, Tolstoy's the guy that came up with Gandhi's pacifism, the idea. So
yeah, Gandhi wasn't amiable.
I don't think he was.
No.
So Tolstoy, what would we say about him? I don't know. I think he was more amiable than Gandhi. Gandhi, there was an aggressiveness about it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, some aggressive people, they manage to find some sort of religion. They find some sort of religion to keep them in line, keep themselves in line a little bit better.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah.
I mean, what can you do? You
as
already
far
have
as
people, they're already formed.
Yeah, as far as aggressive propagandists go, it doesn't get much better than Gandhi. But at any rate, I don't know where I'd class Tolstoy. Maybe 50-50 amiable and aggressive propagandist. But when he died, Lenin, really not that much difference between the two guys. So that was around 1911. Lenin jeered and fleered at his hold on reality.
I think Lenin would be a whole lot better than Stalin.
Let's look at them. Who developed the labor camps? Who started the Gulag? Archipelago? On and on it goes. So Stalin kind of ran with it. I think to a certain
Stalin,
extent.
nobody was safe.
Well, ultimately, we don't know what it would have been like with him. So he had a stroke. He was poisoned by Stalin.
Yeah.
But it would have been just a little bit of slow poison and stuff like that.
Yeah.
How old was Lenin when
might be happening right now to people.
Well, Putin comes from this. He's done it to people, poisoned them. You know, like the guy who was, I think he was running for the leadership of Ukraine way back when. It was 2005.
I mean, our neighbor, she had COVID, and she had the coughing, the ongoing coughing, right? And now she's having to take medication for her heart.
Heart arrhythmia.
Yeah. So, I mean, who knows?
So that's a long-term thing. You
Yeah.
get anti-maskers and anti-vaxxers out there, or vaxxers. We don't know what the long-term.
I mean, everybody's focusing
Problems are
on
gonna
the lethal COVID response or whatever, but well, I shouldn't say everyone's focusing on that. The CBC is doing a dang fine job of trying to not focus on it.
Well,
Trying to distract.
There's
Look
COVID
at this
here.
other thing.
Look over there.
Yeah, exactly.
Look way over there. Up, down.
Yeah,
What's over there?
Let's not look at COVID.
Don't
though.
look there. No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess we should go in.
Yeah, it's getting dark.
Getting dark.
We'll freeze in the cold and the dark.
Yeah.